Ladies and gentlemen, our new flagship GPU, the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3080.
So the RTX 3000 series has been hyped by NVIDIA as one of the best releases they've ever had. And they kind of say that about every single release. So is it really true? Can you actually believe them this time? A lot of the PC community actually kind of went along with it and followed the hype train. So there's really only one way to find out, and that's to actually test it. So for the computer setup, I'm rocking the 3900X. The motherboard is Gigabyte Aorus Extreme, and the RAM is Trident Z Neo with 2 sticks of 8GB totaling up to 16GB of 3600 speed RAM. For storage, it's just a basic Western Digital green 1TB SSD. And for the power supply, I'm actually pretty happy that it gets to finally stretch its legs because it is the Corsair HX 1200. And as for cooling, once again I'm going with Corsair. It is the H100i White Edition. So you guys have seen this already in my last video. I bought the MSI Ventus RTX 3080 and it took me a long time to hunt it down, and I finally got my hands on it. I'm going to be comparing that to the 2080 Ti, which is also made by MSI, and that is the MSI Gaming X Trio 2080 Ti. For the very last graphics card is one that might have not even existed if AMD didn't scare NVIDIA into releasing it when they were threatening with the Vega graphics cards. We all know that kind of flopped, but the 1080 Ti is an absolute beast for the 1000 series GTX cards. It is an absolute monster back then. So I'm going to be testing the generational leap here, or the generational improvement, which means that I'm going to be taking a look at the jump from the 1000 series to the 2000 series versus the 2000 series to 3000 series on those 3 graphics cards. At the very end, I am going to average out the overall average FPS for the entire list of games, and then I'll make the comparison of whether or not the 3080 is actually a really big generational improvement over the last gen, or is it just kind of average and NVIDIA is just hyping it up for no reason again. So let's get testing. Alright, so the results are in, and what did we find out? Well, first of all, let's define what makes it a successful launch. First of all, the average percentage each graphics generation improves by is roughly anywhere from 20 to 30%. And it does vary generation to generation. Sometimes there's a 20% improvement, sometimes there's 30% improvement, and I would say anywhere between that range is considered average. Now, you gotta remember though, the thing is, NVIDIA's been hyping this as a massive launch. It is supposed to be a significant, if not the best improvement they've ever made, according to NVIDIA. So, when you look at the overall averages, it kind of seems like NVIDIA knew what they were talking about. 30% exactly, which is on the high end. And it wasn't spectacular, it wasn't completely blowing out of the water. It's within the average, but it's definitely at the very, very tip of the high end. The funny thing is, if you look at the 2080 Ti, it also is exactly 30%. So that's a little bit of a weird coincidence. It's almost like NVIDIA kind of knew what they were doing. But there's a little wrench to these stats though. When you look at the fact that there's only really 3 games out of the bunch I tested that averaged over 30%. Almost every single one is only 20-something%. There's one game in particular which just hard carried every single other game, and it was at 75%. There was only one game that kind of hard carried all the other games, and that is Borderlands 3 was at 75% improvement from the 3000 series over the 2000 series. And when you look at it that way, almost every other game only improved by 20-something%, which is on the low end of what's acceptable. It does kind of feel like NVIDIA is just kind of exaggerating significantly about how good this generation of graphics is. When you take into account that they doubled the amount of CUDA cores for this graphics card from the last gen, and then on top of that, the power draw is completely off the charts at 320 watts versus the 260 watts. You know, you have to start questioning if NVIDIA is starting to get desperate, because not only are they spending so much more money trying to produce a chip with so many more cores, but also they are drawing so much power to try and push it as far as they can. And that kind of reminds me of how AMD was in their last couple gens of graphics cards, where they weren't really competing that well and starting to falter and then push their cards to dangerous limits of power draw. And NVIDIA seems like they're kind of heading that way, which makes me worry a little bit for their future. But for me as a consumer, that can only be a good thing, because AMD's here to compete. And as I'm filming this, they've already launched a 6800 XT. Yes, I know I'm super late to the party. I'm trying to get one, and I'll get a review on that as well. Anyways, I hope you guys found this video interesting and educational. I really would appreciate if you give me a like and subscribe. If not, that's perfectly fine. But I will be definitely buying the 6800 XT as soon as I get my hands on one. I'll be doing that review as well. So anyways, if you don't want to miss that out, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.